right.
Yep, we should be live.
Yep, we are live. All right, thank you. I will call our meeting to order of the Commission on the Connecticut's Development and Future. Appreciate everybody joining us today. Let me get rid of the live stream window. Got it. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. I know there's been a lot of work going on to get us organized and to bring us all together today. And I'm grateful for the significant level of interest that I think we've seen. And perhaps Matt or Eric or somebody can explain. I know there was, last count I saw, there were at least 87 people who wanted to participate in this process, which I think says a lot about how much interest there is and how important of a policy area that this is for the state. And obviously for everybody who's involved here. It's kind of coming off of the debate that we had last year around items related to zoning and housing and impacts on the environment and transportation. And obviously those are all key policy areas that are key to the health and vitality of our state. I think both economically and socially. And I think, we have an opportunity here to continue that work. I'm hoping to continue that work. I don't know if anybody knows how long they committed to doing this when they signed up to do this, but I'm hoping that we can spend the next year really delving into these policy areas and really leveraging the expertise that we know is both on the screen here and certainly among the dozens of people who expressed interest in participating in this process, so that we can kind of have a outside of the legislative process review and look at these policy areas. And that we can obviously address some of the difficult policy considerations that we have to explore when trying to make some adjustments to a lot of these policies and laws that have been around for a very long time, and which are held very important to people at all levels of government, local government, the regional level, and obviously the state level. And so I'm looking at the agenda. I want to actually allow Martin. I know Martin is filling in for Secretary McCaw today. I don't know if she provided a written statement for Martin to read. I'm totally putting him on the spot here. I don't think she did, but at least give Martin an opportunity to offer some comments.
Thank you, Representative, and thank you. As the Representative noted, unfortunately, the Secretary could not be here today, as everyone can imagine, getting ready for budget preparation and session starting on Wednesday. So she did ask me to cover for her for this meeting. I think, Jason, you had covered everything already, to get us started here for our kind of short meeting today, kind of our second structural meeting, as I call it, kind of going through and kind of finalizing our structure. So I look forward to going through the meeting with everyone.
Cool. Thank you. And I know the next item is attendance, and we'll try not to spend too long on this, but we could just go around, and I don't know if I'll call on people, or as I call on you, you call on the next person who can quickly introduce themselves and just describe who it is and why they're at this table and what role they'll be playing in the process as we move forward. Does that work for you, Martin?
Representative, I was going to say, because we kind of did that at the last meeting. Maybe easier to just have Erica do a roll call so we have our attendance.
And the other thing that I can do for ease of time is just look at the participant list. So if you make sure it's your name on there, I can just do that and we can save time.
That sounds great. Thank you, Erica.
All right. So should I be moving on with item number 3? Approval of the minutes. Now, full disclosure, I don't know if I had the minutes on my calendar. Let's see. I'm sure here they are. The minutes were included in the meeting invite. I'd entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
Aaron Semple, so moved.
Is there a second?
Donna Hamsey-Croce, I'll second that.
Thank you. Any discussion on the minutes? Any edits or clarifications that anybody sees? Seeing none. All those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
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 Thank you. All opposed? Good. Making a nice and easy meeting. Appreciate that. Thank you. Let me get back to my agenda here. Right, the next item number 4, were the working group appointments. And I appreciate everybody who stepped up to be a co-chair. Some of you are doing this under duress after me calling you late last week and asking you to do it. I see some smiles on some faces, so you know who you are. But I appreciate everyone taking a leadership role in this process, because as with any item that we deal with at the legislature, something as complicated as this and something that has as much interest as up to 90 people, it's certainly going to take a lot of leadership on the part of folks that I'm looking at on the screen to keep us on track, to ensure that we're focused on the real critical questions that we need to address some of these policy issues, and to ultimately keeping us organized and our member participants organized so that we can end the process with a really good outcome and hopefully some recommendations for the legislature to consider in the 23 legislative session. In terms of mechanics, Martin, I don't know if you were going to go through this section on the working group appointments, or did you want me to? You can tell Martin.
If you want to handle this section, then I'll handle item 5.
All right. So, so the membership groups were included in all of the documents, in terms of the committees that we've identified, some of the subcommittees that we've identified. And, it's certainly possible as we go through this process, we might evolve and identify the need from us additional working groups. I think as we get more feedback and information from participants, there might be a need from either subcommittees of these subcommittees or standing up entirely new subcommittees, depending on the level of interest that we might find in a particular topic. So I know that everybody has I'm hoping that everybody has the document in front of them. I don't know that we need to go through it in detail, but I certainly want to express my appreciation to Representative McCarthy-Vahey, Aaron Kempel, Representative Lamar, Tim Hollister, Senator Cohen, Donna Hamsey, Representative Phipps, Kylie Goslin, Representative Zullo, and David Barkin for stepping up to be chairs of the subcommittees. Obviously, we've set it up in such a way that there is a legislator, someone inside the building, and a non-legislator, someone outside the building who's going to help lead our committees. And I think that'll allow us to have the most fruitful discussions and ensure that there is continued engagement on the part of the legislature as we go through that process, knowing that session ends in May and, we all run up back to our lives. Obviously, there's re-election campaigns that'll be going on later this fall. But we are all legislators until January. So that means we will continue to do this work in addition to everything else that we do throughout the rest of the year as we seek to get this work. So I'd open it up to anybody if anyone has any comments either about the committees themselves and or their roles. Any of the chairs want to offer some comments. If you want to just raise your hand, I might find you. I have all of you on, I have almost all of you on one screen. Now I have all of you on one screen, so I can see you if you raise your hand. Everyone's really, really quiet on a Monday here. Oh, yeah, Tim, please go ahead. Senator Wong, I'll get to you next.
Thank you. Good afternoon, committee members. Just for those of you who will be working on the affordable housing plans, as was mentioned last time, we have an interesting challenge and an opportunity in terms of timing, because under last year's legislation, towns are writing affordable housing plans to be filed with OPM by the middle of the year. So they will be doing that in parallel with our meeting and trying to give them guidance on how to write such a plan. So there'll be a timing issue to figure out in terms of after they've done their work, do we go back and tell them, you could improve your process by doing X, Y, and Z. So we'll have to talk about that as a practical problem. But I would note that the plans as they are being written are being collected by Amanda Kennedy of the Southeast Council of Governments. And Matthew Brockman, I sent you the link for that, which you might want to forward on to the members of at least of the subcommittee. And then my understanding is that OPM is keeping a list. But I was invited to just give 60 seconds on what I think the priority should be for this subcommittee. And I would say it this way, being totally respectful of municipal discretion and process. You all know the cartoon where the employee is sitting at his desk and he's got 3 piles, yes, no, and think about. And yes is there's nothing there, and no, there's nothing there, and think about is piled up to the ceiling. We want to get the towns past the think about stage and think about and create realistic plans that can be actually executed in the short term, looking at infrastructure and regulations that may not advance the ball in terms of actually constructing housing, and looking at in more detail at parking requirements and minimum floor area regulations and other things that have been identified in the past. So it's to try to help the towns get from plans that might sit on the shelf to plans that can actually be used to develop housing. Thank you, Representative.
Almost forgot to unmute myself. Thank you, Tim. I appreciate that. Senator Wong.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And we are proceeding on schedule, which is rare in the building. And I see this group, and I want to thank everybody for participating. But as the ranking and planning development, and we just had our screening discussion, I wonder the feasibility and the possibility of us being able to add another working group to this that would encompass TOD design as well as 830G discussions as a working group. I think if we're looking at Connecticut's development and its future, that is a noble endeavor for us to reevaluate. I know the noble gesture of 830G, well-intentioned, but over 30 years, I do believe it's an opportunity for us to craft a better plan to address the needs of housing that is sorely needed in this state. But perhaps I don't know what the working process is with the statute in being able to afford a new working group. But I believe if there is a possibility, adding another working group to that area of consideration would be an important part of this commission. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
No, thank you for the question and the suggestion. I'm not opposed to another working group. Certainly, I think that's something that, we can discuss. I also don't know if, and I defer to others on the meeting, if we think that's an item that can be included under one of the existing working groups. And Senator Wong, I don't know if that was something that you might be interested in, just for ease of process in terms of keeping us moving. I'm open to another group. We would welcome feedback from the team here as to whether that the component around 8-30G. And then I think the second piece was TOD, which I don't know if it fits as neatly under one of the existing subcommittees as perhaps 8-30G might, but I would welcome others' feedback if they have an opinion or thought on that. And I know, Anika, you had your hand raised from before, so I don't know if you're going to comment on this, but you're free to. But if not, are there any others who have a thought on that recommendation?
Well, through you, Mr. Chair, if I may continue, where do you see the 830G in one of the working groups fitting into? And if TOD doesn't apply, then obviously, the first question is there an appetite for the committee to create another working group? And if it's not possible, where would the 830G consideration be under the 5 working groups that we have established?
I mean, the one I look at is the municipal affordable housing plans. That seems to be, what either is a driver for many people to try to accomplish that goal, or perhaps is seen as an impediment to achieving that goal, is often the amount of the energy that comes around the issue of 8-30G and when that process is initiated in a particular community. So that's where I would think it would fall.
Okay.
Yeah. And
go ahead, Martin.
sure. Thank you. Thank you, Senator. Good to see you. So, yeah, according to the statutes, the affordable housing would fall under that category. Same as TOD, somewhat falls under the model code development. That there is discussion in there. Legislation's not per se particular on. There's so many other topics, as we know, that could be addressed with the development of the future and everything. So I think if we go forward looking at this, I'm not sure if there's going to need to be a legislative change to create these other work groups, because there is a charge by the legislature, as you're aware, for these particular work groups. But TOD with about streets, and road plans, everything go under the model code development. So there is definitely, I believe, topics can be discussed there with the TOD, and then the affordable housing under the municipal affordable housing plans, at least to get us started, and then seeing if we need to branch out from that point, if these topics become something more than, what the work groups are currently working on.
I appreciate that input. And indeed, I think creating another work group may be a tall order with the pace in which we're moving. So, but I also appreciate the clarification and the definition that these 2 areas could fit under that area of work group discussion. I'll just leave it at that. And I appreciate the clarification and the opportunity to know that these groups will be taking up those topics of conversation. So I'll be eagerly looking forward to supporting and engaging in that conversation. Thank you. Thank you, co-chairs.
Thank you, Senator. Anika Lamar.
Thank you. I had raised my hand in response to something Attorney Hollister said, but I'll just say on that last point that I agree that that stuff ought to go into the municipal group. And with all due respect, when we start to convene committees that are completely focused on 830G and not other issues, we tend to attract people who are anti-affordable housing, not pro-affordable housing. That's just who that's who seems to be drawn to conversations about 830G, whereas there's a much broader swath of person who's attracted to conversations about affordable housing, one prong of which might be 830G. But when we start convening groups that are about 830G, we pull out, the NIMBYs just come crawling out. So I do like the idea of framing conversations around constructively around affordable housing as opposed to destructively around esoteric aspects of state land use law. It takes a special type to be motivated by that and not by affordability in general. The thing I just wanted to say about to Attorney Hollister, and I don't envy the task of contemporaneously with the town's developing plans, your group having to develop mechanisms to evaluate and guide the towns on those plans, is that in other states where towns have to provide plans like these to the state then provides constructive feedback to the towns that they then must incorporate into their plans. So I understand that Connecticut may not quite be there yet, but I like to think we can move in the direction of developing not just guidance to towns, but guidance to the state in terms of how to evaluate things that towns do that are supposed to be in the state's interest and supposed to be consistent with state law, including but not limited to the state's Zoning Enabling Act and the planning statutes. Thanks.
Thank you. Any additional comments, either on the, Representative Zullo?
Thank you, Mr. Majority Leader. Just very quickly, I'd like to thank everybody for enlarging the scope and the amount of work that the Model Code Committee will have to do, which I was recently asked to help co-chair. So thank you to everybody for that. And I would agree with Mrs. Lamar, just that I think it's got to be a constructive conversation. It's got to be part of the conversation of what that does, but it certainly can't be the focus. But just want to thank everybody for that added little bit. So thank you very much. But actually, and also to Senator Wong's credit, it is an important conversation to have. Attorney Hollister joked that pile of let's think about it, it's the only pile you see. And that's one of those conversations where everybody says, let's think about it. Let's think about it. So this is an opportunity to stop just thinking and actually put some action behind it. So absolutely willing to help facilitate a conversation on it.
Thank you, Representative Zullo.
Thank you.
He sort of admitted he was one of the people under duress from my phone calls last week. So thank you for being here today. Any additional comments or questions? Seeing none, thank you. Again, thank you to everybody. I appreciate all of your leadership in getting this work done. And I'm incredibly optimistic, although I'm always optimistic that we'll have a great outcome to this process. So we're now going to move on to item 5, and we'll turn it over to Mr. Heft for covering that area.
Thank you, Representative. And some of it kind of got covered slightly, but that is fine. So working group reports, wanted to give an opportunity for the co-chairs to offer any, particular pieces that they wanted to offer. So I will call on you, and if you've already reported, you can just state as such. And then the second piece of this is I'll incorporate first was some suggested meeting presentations to kick off maybe your first work group meeting or your second one of some areas that might be helpful, at least to get things started. So under the state and municipal reporting would be to get an update from the Office of Policy and Management, an overview of the state plan of conservation and development process. Under model code would be to look possibly bringing in the town of Canton and the town of Hartford, who actually have model codes to be able to explore. Under consolidated housing plan and the municipal affordable housing plans, to bring in the experts at the Department of Housing that oversee those plans. And then on the sewage area, the Department of Public Health and Department of Energy and Environmental Protection, bringing in the key agencies that do all of these reportings, and have this knowledge, to use those as your kind of preliminary startup to find out what is in place and then be able to move forward. So those are just suggested meeting presentations to kind of help kick the work groups off. But this time what I'm going to go through is call on the two co-chairs of each of the committees to see if they have anything they'd like to add at this point. So starting off with the state and municipal statutory plan process, Representative McCarthy Vahey and Aaron Kemple.
Aaron, I would defer to you if you'd like to chime in first.
Thank you. It's been an interesting conversation just today. And one of the things that I'm hoping that the state municipal plan committee is going to do is look at the responsibilities of state and local government local government with regards to affordable housing and how that can be used in ways to promote integration and really try to undo some of the segregation patterns we have here in Connecticut. I know it's a hot topic. I know it's something that the legislature and in particular Representative McCarthy Vahey spent nights and days, I believe, on last legislative session. And I'm hoping we can bring some perspective to this that really is going to help in the future and not just in this particular legislative session. So thank you.
Martin, may I proceed?
Please do, Representative. Thank you.
I want to thank Ms. Kemple for agreeing to work together with me with this group, and thank Martin and OPM for the work that they've done. We certainly hope that we will be able to pass the plan of conservation and development this year. And I want to thank Ms. Kemple for her comments. This is a tremendous opportunity for us to look at what this document means for us as a state, not just as a nice document or a plan that we have, but how we implement it to help protect the people of our state, protect our land and resources, protect our climate, protect our economy, all of those things. And I think we definitely will be working together collaboratively. I'm going to look forward to getting to know Ms. Kemple and working with OPM, and the opportunity to hear from the people who are members of the working group. I'm really excited to work together with all of them, as well as hear from the people of Connecticut. It's a great opportunity to really bring in a lot of different voices. So I also specifically, Mr. Heff, look forward to meeting with you very soon to talk about this immediate legislative session, but the goal, even in the name of this commission, comes from our plan of conservation and development and the idea of how we look to the future, as Ms. Kemple said. So thank you so much to everyone for investing. I'm incredibly excited about the opportunity that we have before us and the group of people who's really willing to dive in. Thanks, Mr. Heff.
Thank you both. Appreciate it. Moving on, municipal affordable housing plans. Our co-chairs are Representative Lamar and Tim Hollister.
All yours, Representative.
Thank you. Attorney Hofstra did a great job sort of introducing a lot of the overview our subcommittee will have in the upcoming weeks and months. I'm inspired by the list of individuals that are on our subcommittee, and I'm really excited to hear from a lot of them. As Attorney Hollister indicated, we have an obligation, I think, to help out a lot of communities who are earnestly attempting to develop their municipal housing plans. There's a lot of resources across the state that might not be getting to everyone who needs them right now. So we have both an educational obligation in addition to a procedural update obligation. So I'm going to take that very seriously, and I know the people on this subcommittee will as well. And plus, I think Senator Wong just assigned me the ability to look at 8-30J, so I appreciate that, Senator Wong. But in all seriousness, I'm really excited to work with Attorney Hofstra and every member of the subcommittee that we have. It's going to be, I think, a really informative process for everyone, and hopefully we'll have some solid recommendations to put before the whole group.
Thank you, Representative. Tim, do you have anything further?
I'll go one more specific step to what I said earlier. I think a great starting place for our subcommittee, and Representative Lamar and I haven't talked about this, but I'll throw it out there. There are maybe 14 or 15 filed plans. I've printed them. I'm about halfway through. They are just chock full of ideas. So maybe everyone's initial homework is to just get a copy of the ones that we have and start reading, and that'll start germinating lots of really good ideas for discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Greatly appreciate it. Sewage, we have our co-chairs, Senator Cohen and Donna Hamsey.
Thanks, Martin. Donna, I'll defer to you initially. You have a couple words.
Thank you, Senator Cohen. I'd just like to say that how excited I am to be a part of this particular working group, because I see it as a learning opportunity for myself, especially since this area seems to be a huge roadblock for many of my communities, or has been expressed as a roadblock over the several years I worked within this area of affordable housing and just housing in general. So I'm looking forward to it. And I think that the initial presentation by DEEP and DPH will provide a baseline for the conversation as we move forward.
Thanks so much, Donna, and thanks everybody. I'm really thrilled to be a part of this, and so fantastic to have a partner at the helm with me like Donna Hamsey. So that's going to be great. I'm looking forward to this opportunity, not just for the state, for each of our municipalities, but for all of the residents here and future residents of the state of Connecticut. This is really important work that we'll be doing, and on this subcommittee in particular, just really examining that intersection between environment and housing, and really studying the impacts on sewerage, how that relates to clean water. So we've got an incredible cast of individuals on the subcommittee with much more expertise in this area than I do. So I think we'll be relying heavily on that, and look forward to this process.
Just a quick legislative first for me. First time I've heard in 13 years someone excited about sewage. So I just wanted to note
that. Thank you both very much. Moving on to State Consolidated Housing Plan, Representative Phipps and Kylie Goslin.
Hello all. Well, hard to follow the conversation about sewage always. Rep Phipps asked me to jump in on this, so I will do my best. Looking forward to talking with many of you about this subject. It's obviously an important one. The committee is a great mix of folks, so I know Representative Phipps would agree on that, and we have a good team of individuals on this committee to really take a look at the existing plan, especially alongside our friends at DOH, and look at ways that we can improve upon what's there, make some solid recommendations about how this tool can be used and better used moving forward. So I look forward to connecting with DOH and hopefully hearing from them some more during our first meeting, so we can get things started.
Terrific. Thank you very much. And
I don't know if Rep Phipps wanted to add anything.
Oh, is he on? Okay.
No. Good to see you. I know I have been very, very quiet. I think there's probably confusion about the name too. But so yes, this is Representative Williams from the 100th District. Very glad to be here with everyone. Given that this is my first one and I was one of the ones that had one of the panic calls, I will just say that I'm looking forward to working with everyone.
Martin, I think you're muted. Are you talking? Martin, I didn't know if you were adding any more comments there.
Sorry, my mouse got stuck and it wouldn't move. Apologies. I could not unmute myself. Sorry. Yes, thank you, Representative, for the comments. Our last committee, Model Code and Design Development, our co-chairs, Representative Zulu and David Barkin.
I'm happy to go first and very quickly. I just want to thank everybody for the opportunity. Obviously model codes are important. They elucidate what we feel are best practices. And I think it's important from a policy perspective to develop that. And I think it's also important because, they empower municipalities. They're information shortcuts for municipalities that don't always have the time and resources to, do the kind of in-depth analysis and research that we're going to do. So I look at it from the perspective of empowering towns. I think that to the extent that they're permissive and they talk about what's best policy or what we feel is best policy, they're going to be very helpful. So I'm looking forward to really diving in and helping set that dialogue. So thank you.
I just wanted to add on to what the words of Representative Zullo. I look forward to working with Representative Zullo on this subcommittee. I think it's a very interesting subject. I think it really got to get it right. And especially when you're applying standards that are meant to be used throughout the state for very many different types of geographies and demographics, and look forward to working with the committee. It's a large subcommittee, and we've got some good work to do. I think step one is Representative Zullo and I need to have a conversation and establish a direction. So thank you.
Thank you both very much. And Representative Rojas, I'll turn it back over to you.
No, thank you, and thank everybody for your comments. Certainly, I think everyone here is kind of, we all painfully know exactly what have been the limitations of our policies around this areas, in particular around housing. Most people here are not strangers to the decades-long debates about housing and zoning and even 8-30G. And what I'm hoping that comes out of this is an opportunity to move away from all the previous debates and actually move the state forward, because this isn't just I'd say a crisis here in Connecticut, but it's actually a national crisis. And I know for the housing experts who are here, they know all too well what our country is facing in terms of a lack of not only affordable housing, but just housing, even moderately income housing. There is certainly of lack of access to it across the country. And we have a responsibility here in Connecticut to move this issue forward, because it's key to the economic health of our state, which has ramifications for every other area of our lives that is important, whether it's health, whether it's criminal justice, whether it's education, whether it's all those things, whether it's how communities are impacted during a pandemic. The issues that we're going to talk about here all speak to an ability to move our state forward in this. And so again, just really appreciative of all of you stepping forward to participate in this process. Had a couple of housekeeping items to go through in section 5. Included in the letter was a letter that we did send to Senator Looney and Speaker Ritter to seek an extension of our work because we're late on our interim report already. And one of the things I've learned now that I've been majority leader 1 year, perhaps I'm going to put in a bill this year that not allow more than 250 task forces and or commissions to be established in any given legislative session, because there are just simply too many of them. And obviously they're always well-intentioned, but given how many there are and how many limited people we have to participate in them, we have to think twice about how many of these we establish. But I'm really happy to see this one today, because the work is significant for all of us, and it is a large group, and it got even larger because of the interest that people out there in Connecticut have on this issue. So I feel good about this one, but there are a good many of them that have never gotten off the ground. And even though we're a little bit behind in terms of having an interim report that was already due, we did get an extension until July 1 for us to do some of this work, submit an interim report there, and then we can spend some quality summer days together before things get going in the fall to continue our work and hope to make some solid recommendations sometime in December, so that the new legislature and the next governor can take on these issues and consider them during a long legislative session, knowing that the one we're about to embark on is a mere 84 days long and going to go by very quickly. So in terms of other housekeeping items, let's see, next commission meeting, full commission meeting will be on April 4th. In between now and then, we are hoping that the chairs, along with their committees, will commence with the work. One, with the questions that they come up with among themselves, some of the questions that you already know exist out there, and just begin to chip away at collecting that information and developing some ideas and recommendations for the full body to consider. And certainly, again, looking ahead to next year when we can try to implement some of these new policies. So I'm now on the other, and I will certainly open it up to the floor for anybody else who would like to offer any additional comments or thoughts, either new ones or in reaction to anything that's been said today. Not seeing any raised hands. I know there was an opportunity for public comment. My understanding is no one signed up for public comment. Even with 8-30G on the agenda, nobody signed up for comment, but that's a good thing. So with no public comment at this time, I'll go back to Martin before we look to adjournment. But Martin, I don't know if you have any other comments to offer.
Nope, just to reiterate, Representative, is, now's the time to get the working groups out there, get going. So we'll have, full reports back in April from the working groups on, what's been progressed from now until then. So thank you all.
And for any of the co-chairs that are looking for some staff assistance, we have hired 2 sessional attorneys in the majority leader's office. They don't know this yet, but I'd like to make them available to any of the co-chairs of the committee, knowing that many of you who are on the legislative side and co-chairs chair committees and will be very busy. And those of you who are not in the legislature who are co-chairing have lives as well and will be very busy. So to the extent that my team in the majority leader's office can be of assistance, but also those sessional attorneys, please don't hesitate to ask us. We are looking to give them a really great experience this session. So they will have some time. The bulk of their time really will be spent once we start screening, which is late March and April. So please utilize 2 very bright sessional attorneys that we're bringing on to help you get your work done, help to keep you coordinated, help to get a meeting scheduled, whatever it might be. Don't hesitate to call on us. And certainly you can reach out to Matt Brockman in my office too to secure that assistance. So I think with that, thank you all. And I look forward to all the work that you're going to do and appreciate you again for your leadership. It's an awkward moment where we all stare at each other. I guess I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
There's a second.
I'll second.
Second. I'm pretty sure no one is opposed. So thank you, everybody.
Have a good day.